Zara stood on the edge of the crystal cliff, watching her family's spaceship get smaller and smaller in the orange sky. Her heart felt heavy as she realized what had just happened. They had really left her here, on this dying planet, all alone. The wind carried a bitter smell that made her nose wrinkle. This wasn't how things were supposed to go. Just 3 hours ago, she was sitting in the ship's kitchen, sharing a meal with her brother and parents. They told her they needed to pick up some equipment from the old mining station. It seemed like a normal trip, but normal trips don't end, with your own family flying away without you. Zara's blue skin began to glow slightly as her body tried to filter the bad air around her. Her people, the Etherians, had special organs in their necks that could clean dirty air. But this planet's air was getting worse every day. Even her body couldn't handle it much longer. She remembered the fight from 2 weeks ago. That terrible fight that changed everything. Zara had been working in her father's office, checking the mining reports like she always did. She was good with numbers and loved helping the family business. But then she found something that made her stomach drop. The reports showed her family was dumping poison deep into the planet's core. Not just a little bit. Massive amounts. Enough to kill the whole planet slowly. The same planet where thousands of creatures still lived in the underground caves. The same planet that had given their family wealth for 30 years. When she asked her father about it, he got angry. Really angry. He said business was business. He said sometimes you have to make hard choices. Her mother nodded along, counting money on her tablet. Her brother just looked away. "But Dad, this will destroy everything," Zara had said, her voice shaking. "The animals, the plants, even the air. In a few years, nothing will be able to live here." Her father's eyes went cold. "That's not our problem. We'll be long gone by then." That's when Zara made her mistake. She told them she would report this to the Space Council. She said she couldn't let them keep poisoning the planet. She thought they would listen. She thought they would change their minds because she was family. Instead, they started planning how to get rid of her. Now, standing alone on this cliff, Zara understood how wrong she had been. Family was supposed to protect each other. Family was supposed to care about right and wrong. But her family cared more about money than anything else, even more than her. The air was getting thicker. She could feel it in her lungs. The special organs in her neck were working harder now, making a soft humming sound as they tried to clean each breath, but they weren't designed for air this bad. Zara looked around the empty mining station below her. Big metal buildings sat quiet and dark. The workers had all left months ago when the air got too dangerous. Only the machines were still running, digging deeper and deeper, following the program her family had set. She climbed down the rocky path to the main building. Her legs felt weak, but she had to find shelter. The sun was setting, and the nights here were cold. Plus, the toxic fog always got worse after dark. The station's door was still unlocked. Inside, everything was covered in dust. Coffee cups sat on tables where workers had left them. Pictures of families were still pinned to the walls. It looked like everyone had left in a hurry. Zara found the control room and sat down in a big chair. The screens were still working, showing numbers and charts about the mining operation. She understood these displays better than most people. After all, she had helped design some of this equipment back when she thought her family was doing good work. The main screen showed the air quality readings. The numbers were all red, dangerous levels everywhere, and getting worse every hour. At this rate, she had maybe 3 days before her body couldn't handle it anymore. She tried not to cry, but tears came anyway. Not just because she was scared, though she was, but because she felt so stupid. How had she not seen what kind of people her family really were? How had she helped them for so many years without knowing they were destroyers? Her grandmother used to tell stories about the old days when Etherians were known as healers of planets, not killers. "We used to make dead worlds green again," she would say. "That was our gift to the universe." What would grandmother think now? Zara wiped her eyes and started working on the air system. If she was going to survive even one more day, she needed to fix the station's air cleaners. They were old and breaking down, but maybe she could make them work a little longer. As she worked, she kept thinking about her family's ship disappearing into the orange sky. They probably thought she would die quickly. They probably hoped she would, so she couldn't tell anyone about their crimes. But Zara wasn't ready to die. Not yet. She had work to do. Somehow, some way, she was going to make sure the universe knew what her family had done. And maybe, if she was lucky, she could find a way to fix this dying planet. The air cleaners hummed to life, and Zara took her first clean breath in hours. It wouldn't last long, but it was a start. She had bought herself some time. Outside, the toxic fog was rolling in with the darkness. But inside the station, a blue-skinned woman sat at a computer, refusing to give up. She had been betrayed by the people who should have loved her most. But she was still alive, still fighting, and still believing that somewhere in this big universe, there were people who cared about doing the right thing. She just had to survive long enough to find them. Dr. Elena Chen pressed her face against the small window of her research ship as she approached the orange planet below. The whole world looked sick. Thick, poisonous clouds swirled around it like a dirty blanket. She had seen pictures of what this place used to look like: green forests, blue rivers, and clear skies. Now it looked like something from a nightmare. Elena had volunteered for this dangerous mission for one simple reason. She wanted to understand how planets died. Not because she was curious about death, but because she wanted to learn how to save them. Back on Earth, her hometown had been destroyed by pollution from big factories. The air became so bad that everyone had to leave. She was only 12 years old when her family packed up their whole life and moved away. She never forgot the smell of that poisoned air. She never forgot watching her favorite trees turn brown and die. Most of all, she never forgot the feeling of losing her home to people who cared more about money than the planet. That's why she became a scientist. That's why she spent 15 years studying how to clean poisoned air and water. And that's why she was here now, flying alone toward a planet that everyone said was already dead. Her ship's computer beeped with a warning. Toxic atmosphere detected. Life support systems active. Estimated safe exposure time: 6 hours with full protective gear. Elena nodded and checked her biomask one more time. It was the newest design, created by the best scientists on Earth. It could filter almost any poison out of the air and give her body the clean oxygen it needed. But even this amazing technology had limits. As her ship entered the atmosphere, Elena felt surprised by how quiet everything was. No radio signals, no signs of life, just the sound of toxic wind hitting her ship's hull. According to her research, this planet had been completely evacuated 3 months ago. Everyone was gone. She should be completely alone down there. That's why the beeping sound from her life scanner made her jump. "Computer, run that scan again," she said, checking the numbers on her screen. Scan confirmed. 1 life form detected. Location: abandoned mining station, Sector 7. Life signs are weak but stable. Elena stared at the screen. That was impossible. Nothing could survive down there without proper protection. The air was full of chemicals that could destroy most life forms in minutes. What kind of creature could still be alive? Her scientific mind started racing with possibilities. Maybe it was some kind of new organism that had adapted to the poison. Maybe it was a plant that had learned to eat toxic chemicals. If she could study it, she might learn something that could help other dying planets. Elena landed her ship near the mining station and put on her full protective suit. The biomask covered her entire face and connected to an oxygen tank on her back. Her suit had sensors that would warn her if any dangerous chemicals got through. The moment she stepped outside, those sensors started going crazy. The air was so bad that even her advanced equipment was struggling. She had maybe 4 hours before her systems would start to fail. The mining station looked empty and abandoned. Dust covered everything, and some of the windows were broken. But her scanner was definitely picking up a life form inside the main building. Elena walked carefully toward the entrance, watching her step on the rocky ground. Inside the station, the air was slightly better, but not by much. Her scanner led her through empty hallways and past rooms full of old equipment. She followed the signal to what looked like a control room. That's where she found her. A woman with blue skin was lying on the floor next to a computer terminal. She wasn't human, but she was definitely intelligent. Elena could see that she was wearing some kind of work clothes, and there were tools scattered around her like she had been trying to fix something. The woman was barely breathing. Her skin had a glow to it, but it was very faint, like a light bulb running out of power. Elena noticed strange slits on the sides of her neck that were opening and closing slowly. They looked like gills, but they were clearly designed to filter air, not water. Elena's medical training kicked in immediately. She knelt down and checked the woman's pulse. It was weak, but steady. Her body temperature was low, and she seemed to be unconscious, but she was alive. Looking around the room, Elena saw that the woman had been working on the station's air cleaning system. Some of the machines were running, creating a small pocket of cleaner air in this room. That's probably the only reason she was still alive. But Elena could see that the system was failing. The machines were old and breaking down. Without them, this woman would die within hours. Elena faced an impossible choice. Her biomask and oxygen supply were designed for one person. She had enough air to explore the planet for 4 hours and then return to her ship. If she shared her life support system with this dying woman, they might both run out of air before they could get to safety. But Elena looked at the woman's face and saw something that reminded her of her younger sister. The same peaceful expression. The same trust that someone would help when help was needed. More importantly, Elena realized this woman might be the key to everything. Her body was somehow filtering the toxic air, even though it was slowly killing her. If Elena could figure out how that worked, she might be able to develop new technology to clean poisoned atmospheres on other worlds. Elena made her decision quickly. She took off her biomask and carefully placed it over the woman's face. The mask's smart technology immediately started scanning the woman's biology and adjusting its filters. Now Elena was breathing the station's filtered air, which was better than outside but still dangerous. She had maybe 1 hour before the toxins would start affecting her body seriously. She worked fast, connecting her portable life support unit to the woman's mask and creating a shared breathing system. It was risky and had never been tested, but Elena's engineering skills told her it should work. The woman stirred and opened her eyes. They were a beautiful silver color, like starlight. When she saw Elena, she tried to sit up quickly, but Elena gently pushed her back down. "It's okay," Elena said softly. "I'm here to help. My name is Elena. I'm from Earth." The woman looked confused for a moment, then spoke in perfect English. You shouldn't be here. The air will kill you." Elena smiled, despite their dangerous situation. "Well, it hasn't killed me yet, and I'm not planning to let it kill you either." The woman's eyes filled with tears. "My family, they left me here. They said I was a problem they needed to solve." Elena felt anger rise in her chest. What kind of people would abandon someone on a dying planet? "Well, your family made a big mistake, because I think you might be the solution to saving this whole world." As the shared life support system hummed quietly between them, Elena helped the woman sit up. Outside, the toxic wind howled against the station walls. But inside, 2 women from different worlds began to trust each other with their lives. Elena didn't know it yet, but this moment would change everything. Not just for them, but for every poisoned planet in the galaxy. Elena helped Zara stand up slowly, keeping one hand on the shared breathing system that connected them both. It felt strange being tied together by tubes and wires, but it was keeping them both alive. Zara's silver eyes looked clearer now, and her blue skin was glowing a bit brighter. How long do we have? Zara asked, looking at Elena's equipment with worry. Elena checked her readings. Maybe 18 hours before our air runs out completely. But that's if we stay here and don't move around much. Zara nodded sadly. That's not enough time for a rescue ship to get here, even if someone knew we were here, which they don't. Then we better figure out another way to survive, Elena said with a small smile. I didn't come this far just to give up now. As they sat together in the control room, sharing stories to stay calm, Elena learned about Zara's life. Zara told her about growing up in a family that seemed to care about helping planets, but really just wanted to get rich. She explained how she had spent years designing machines to clean air and water, thinking she was doing good work. I was so stupid, Zara said, her voice full of sadness. I helped them build the tools they used to destroy this place. Elena shook her head. You weren't stupid. You trusted your family. That's what normal people do. The problem isn't with you. It's with them. Elena shared her own story about losing her hometown to pollution. She told Zara about the factories that pumped poison into the air until nothing could grow there anymore. That's why I became a scientist, she said. I wanted to learn how to fix planets that people had broken. Maybe that's why we found each other, Zara said thoughtfully. You want to heal planets, and I know how they get sick. They spent the next few hours going through the station's computer files together. Zara showed Elena the real mining reports, the ones her family had hidden from the government. The numbers were worse than Elena had imagined. The planet wasn't just dying slowly. At the current rate, it would be completely dead in less than 2 years. But then Zara found something that made her gasp. Elena, look at this! She pointed to a map on the computer screen. My family didn't just leave poison behind, they left the machines too. The map showed 3 huge underground chambers deep in the mining tunnels. Each chamber held an atmospheric processor, a massive machine designed to clean air on a planetary scale. Elena had heard of such machines but had never seen one. I designed these processors, Zara explained, her voice getting excited. They can take poisoned air and turn it clean again, but they need enormous amounts of power to work. Elena studied the technical drawings on the screen. The machines were incredibly advanced, more sophisticated than anything humans had built. Why did your family leave them behind? She asked. Zara's face went dark. Because they were evidence. These processors could have cleaned the planet's air while the mining was happening, but that would have cost money. So my family just let the planet die instead. Elena felt anger burning in her chest. And now they've left you here to die with it. But maybe we don't have to die, Zara said, pointing to another part of the map. The station's fusion reactor. It has enough power to run one processor for about 6 hours. That might be enough to start cleaning the atmosphere. Elena looked at the power readings. Zara, this reactor is set to explode in less than 3 days. The computer says it's an automatic safety system to prevent the pollution from spreading to other planets. I know. My family programmed it that way. They wanted to destroy all the evidence of what they did here. Elena stared at the countdown. Timer on the screen, 62 hours and counting. So we have less than 3 days to power up an atmospheric processor, start cleaning the planet's air, and somehow survive the process. That's impossible, Zara said quietly. Maybe, Elena replied. But impossible things happen all the time. I mean, what were the chances that a human scientist would crash land on this planet at exactly the right time to save an alien environmental engineer? Zara smiled for the first time since Elena had found her. When you put it that way, it does. Sound like the universe might be trying to tell us something? They spent the rest of the day planning. Elena's human knowledge of survival techniques combined with Zara's understanding of the planet's systems gave them ideas neither could have had alone. Elena knew how to jury-rig equipment and work with limited resources. Zara knew exactly how the atmospheric processors worked and how to modify them. The plan they came up with was crazy, but it might work. They would have to go deep into the mining tunnels, where the air was even more poisonous. They would need to restart machines that had been shut down for months, and they would have to do it all while sharing a life support system that was barely keeping them alive. "There's something else," Zara said as they prepared to rest for a few hours. "Even if we get the processor working, someone needs to stay and monitor it during the cleaning cycle. The atmospheric transition could take 12 hours, and the whole process needs constant adjustment." Elena understood what she wasn't saying. "And our shared breathing system can only support one person during that time." "Right. So one of us would have to stay behind while the other escapes to your ship." Elena looked at her new friend. Because that's what Zara had become, even in just one day. They had shared their deepest fears and biggest dreams. They had trusted each other with their lives. The idea of leaving Zara behind felt impossible. "We'll figure something out," Elena said firmly. "We didn't come this far just to sacrifice ourselves. There has to be another way." As they settled, down to sleep, still connected by their breathing tubes, Elena's mind was already working on the problem. She was an engineer. Engineers found solutions, and she wasn't about to let her first alien friend die alone on a poisoned planet. Outside the station, the toxic wind howled through the night. But inside, two women from different worlds dreamed of clean air and green skies. Tomorrow, they would begin the most dangerous journey of their lives. They would go deep underground, into the heart of the planet's sickness, carrying nothing but hope and each other. The countdown timer on the computer screen glowed red in the darkness, 58 hours and 37 minutes until the reactor exploded. 58 hours to save a world. It wasn't much time, but it was all they had. Elena woke up to the sound of alarms blaring throughout the mining station. Red lights flashed on every screen, and the computer's voice kept repeating the same warning over and over. "Reactor countdown, 46 hours, 12 minutes. Evacuation, recommended." Zara was already awake, checking their shared breathing system. "The air outside got worse during the night," she said, pointing to the readings on Elena's equipment. "Whatever my family was dumping into the planet's core, it's spreading faster now." Elena felt her heart sink. Their already impossible mission had just gotten harder. "How much worse?" "Bad enough that even our breathing system will struggle in the deep tunnels. We'll have maybe 4 hours down there before the toxins start getting through our filters." Elena stood up and stretched, trying to work out the knots in her back from sleeping on the hard floor. The tubes connecting them to their shared life support made every movement awkward, but she was getting used to it. "Then we better make those 4 hours count." They spent an hour preparing for the journey into the tunnels. Elena packed her portable computer and every tool she could carry. Zara gathered technical manuals and spare parts for the atmospheric processors. Everything had to fit in backpacks they could carry while staying connected to their breathing system. The entrance to the mining tunnels was behind the station, carved into the side of a rocky hill. As they approached it, Elena's equipment started, beeping warnings about dangerous air quality. The tunnel entrance looked like the mouth of some giant monster, dark and threatening. "Are you sure about this?" Elena asked, checking her air readings one more time. Zara squeezed her hand. "No, but I'm sure about not giving up." They stepped into the tunnel together, their flashlights cutting through the darkness ahead. The walls were rough and uneven, carved out by massive mining machines. Every few hundred feet, they passed abandoned equipment, drilling robots, transport vehicles, and monitoring stations, all left behind when the workers evacuated. As they went deeper, the air got thicker and harder to breathe, even with their masks. Elena's sensors showed poison levels that would kill most life forms in minutes, but their shared breathing system kept working, filtering out the worst toxins and giving them clean oxygen. "There," Zara said, pointing ahead to a heavy metal door, built into the tunnel wall. "That's the entrance to the first processor chamber." The door was locked with an electronic system, but Zara knew the codes. Her family had given her access to everything back when they trusted her. The door slid open with a grinding sound, revealing a huge underground room. Elena gasped when she saw the atmospheric processor. It was enormous, 3 stories tall and covered in pipes, filters, and control panels. It looked like a giant mechanical heart, designed to breathe life back into dead air. "It's incredible," Elena whispered. "How does it work?" Zara led her to the main control panel. "It pulls in poisoned air from the surface, breaks down the toxic chemicals at a molecular level, and releases clean air back into the atmosphere. One processor can clean the air for an entire continent, but it takes massive amounts of energy." Elena studied the control systems while Zara ran diagnostics on the machine. Most of the processor looked fine, but some critical parts had been damaged. "Zara, look at this. Some of these control circuits have been cut deliberately." Zara came over to see what Elena had found. Her face went pale as she looked at the damaged equipment. "My family didn't just abandon this place. They sabotaged it." "Why would they do that?" "Because if anyone ever came back and got these processors working, it would prove that the planet could have been saved all along. It would show that my family chose to let it die instead of spending money to keep it clean." Elena felt sick. It was one thing to abandon the planet. It was another thing entirely to make sure no one could ever fix it. "Can we repair the damage?" Zara examined the cut wires and broken circuits. "Maybe, but it'll take hours, and we need to check the other 2 processors too. If they're all sabotaged the same way, we'll need parts from all 3 machines to make even one of them work." They spent the next 2 hours traveling between the 3 processor chambers, connected by narrow tunnels that went even deeper underground. Elena's air quality readings got worse with each level they descended. The poison in the air was so thick now that their flashlight beams looked cloudy. Each processor chamber told the same story: deliberate sabotage, cut wires, broken control, systems, and missing parts. Zara's family hadn't just abandoned their daughter and the planet. They had made sure that no one could ever undo the damage they had caused. "This is more than just greed," Elena said as they worked to salvage usable parts from the 3rd processor. "This is pure evil." Zara nodded, tears in her silver eyes. "I keep thinking about all the creatures that lived in these tunnels, the underground forests that used to grow here. My family killed everything just to make sure no one would ever find out what they did." But as they worked together, Elena noticed something amazing happening. Zara wasn't just sad anymore. She was angry, really angry, and that anger was giving her strength and determination Elena hadn't seen before. "You know what?" Zara said, connecting 2 salvaged circuits with steady hands. "I'm glad they left me here." Elena looked up from her own repair work, surprised. "What do you mean?" "I mean, if they had taken me with them, I never would have known how bad things really were. I never would have met you. And this planet would have died with no one even trying to save it." Zara's hands moved faster as she worked. "But now we're here, and we're going to fix what they broke." Elena smiled despite their dangerous situation. "Even if it kills us?" "Especially if it kills us, because then at least we'll die doing something that matters." They worked for 3 more hours, combining parts from all 3 processors to make one functional machine. Elena's human engineering skills mixed perfectly with Zara's advanced technical knowledge. Every time one of them got stuck on a problem, the other had a solution. But as they were finishing the repairs, Elena's air quality monitor started flashing red warnings. The toxins were getting stronger and their breathing system was reaching its limits. "How much time do we have left?" Zara asked, noticing Elena's worried expression. Elena checked her readings. "Maybe 30 minutes before our filters fail completely." Zara looked at the processor, which was almost ready to activate. "That's enough time to start it up and get back to the surface. But someone needs to stay and monitor the startup sequence for at least 20 minutes. If anything goes wrong during those first few minutes, the whole system could overload and explode. Elena understood what she was saying. One of them would have to stay in the poisoned air while the other escaped to safety. With their shared breathing system, they couldn't both survive in the tunnels much longer. "I'll stay," Elena said immediately. "No," Zara replied just as quickly. "This is my planet, my family's mess, and my machine. I should be the one to stay." They stared at each other in the dim light of the processor chamber, both knowing that whoever stayed behind probably wouldn't survive. The countdown timer on Elena's equipment showed 28 minutes until their air filters failed completely. Elena looked at the massive atmospheric processor, almost ready to breathe life back into a dying world. Then she looked at her friend, the brave alien woman who had been betrayed by her own family but still refused to give up. "There has to be another way," Elena said firmly. "We didn't come this far just to choose who dies and who lives." But as the timer counted down and the air got more poisonous around them, Elena wasn't sure if hope was enough anymore. Sometimes, she realized, saving the world required sacrifice. The question was, whose sacrifice would it be? Elena stared at the countdown timer on her equipment. 26 minutes until their air filters failed. 26 minutes to save a planet or watch it die forever. But as she looked at the massive atmospheric processor humming to life in front of them, a crazy idea popped into her head. "Zara, what if we don't have to choose who stays and who goes?" Zara looked up from the processor controls, hope flickering in her silver eyes. "What do you mean?" Elena was already moving, pulling up blueprints on her portable computer. "Your atmospheric processor. It doesn't just clean air, right? It creates clean air, lots of it. What if we could use my ship's life support system to create a temporary air bubble down here?" "Elena, your ship is on the surface. We can't get a life support system down here in 26 minutes. We don't need to bring it down here. We need to bring it here." Elena's fingers flew over her computer, connecting to her ship's systems, remotely. "My ship has portable life support pods for emergency situations. They're designed to create clean air bubbles for rescue operations." Zara caught on immediately. "You want to fly your ship over the tunnel entrance and lower a life support pod down here?" "Exactly. It's risky, and I'll have to pilot the ship by remote control, but it might work." Elena started the process, her hands shaking slightly as she programmed the ship's autopilot. Through her computer, she could see the ship's cameras showing the toxic orange sky above. Flying in this poisoned atmosphere would be dangerous even for an unmanned ship. "Elena, even if this works, we still have another problem," Zara said, watching the processor's startup sequence. "This machine needs constant monitoring for the first 4 hours of operation. If the atmospheric pressure changes too quickly, the whole planet's weather system could go crazy." Elena nodded while she worked. "Then we both stay. We monitor the processor together, inside the life support bubble, until the atmospheric transition is stable." The ship's engines roared to life on the surface, and Elena guided it carefully over the tunnel entrance. The toxic winds were strong, buffeting the small spacecraft as she maneuvered it into position. Through the cameras, she could see the orange sky beginning to clear slightly as the processor started its work. "It's working!" Zara shouted, pointing to the atmospheric readings on her screen. "The processor is actually cleaning the air!" Elena deployed the emergency life support pod, watching through her computer as it descended into the tunnel on a long cable. The pod was about the size of a small room, with its own air recycling system and power supply. It wasn't designed for long-term use, but it might give them the 4 hours they needed. With 15 minutes left on their personal air supply, the life support pod reached their level in the tunnel. Elena and Zara quickly moved inside, bringing their equipment and the processor controls with them. The moment they were sealed inside the pod, Elena felt the relief of breathing truly clean air for the first time since arriving on the planet. Zara's blue skin began to glow brighter, and the gills on her neck relaxed as her body stopped fighting the poison around them. "We did it," Zara whispered, watching her atmospheric processor through the pod's small window. "We actually did it." But Elena was watching something else on her monitors. The readings from the planet's surface were changing rapidly. The orange sky was clearing in patches, showing glimpses of blue for the first time in years. Underground rivers that had been poisoned were starting to run cleaner. Even the toxic fog was beginning to lift. "Zara, look at this." Elena showed her the atmospheric readings from around the planet. "The processor isn't just cleaning the air in this area. It's starting a chain reaction. The clean air is spreading faster than we expected." Zara studied the numbers, her scientific mind working through the implications. "The planet's ecosystem is still alive underground. As soon as the air started getting cleaner, the surviving plants and microorganisms began helping with the cleaning process. It's like the planet was just waiting for a chance to heal itself." They spent the next 4 hours monitoring the atmospheric processor and watching in amazement as the planet came back to life around them. Through Elena's ship cameras, they saw the sky change from orange to yellow to pale blue. Plants that had been dormant underground began pushing through the soil toward the cleaner air above. When the processor finally stabilized and no longer needed constant monitoring, Elena and Zara climbed out of the life support pod and breathed the tunnel air. For the first time since Elena had arrived, her equipment showed safe air quality readings. They made their way back to the surface together, no longer needing the shared breathing system that had kept them alive. As they stepped outside the mining station, Elena gasped at what she saw. The sky was blue. Not the pale, sickly blue of a recovering atmosphere, but the deep, rich blue of a healthy planet. Green shoots were already sprouting from the ground, and in the distance, Elena could see forests beginning to bloom again. "It's beautiful," Elena whispered. Zara wiped tears from her silver eyes. "I never thought I'd see my planet healthy again." Elena activated her communication system and sent messages to both Earth and the Galactic Environmental Council. She uploaded all the evidence of Zara's family's crimes, along with documentation of the successful atmospheric restoration. Within hours, responses came flooding in. The Earth Alliance wanted to study the atmospheric processor technology. The Galactic Council wanted to arrest Zara's family and use the restoration as a model for other poisoned worlds. Environmental groups across the galaxy hailed the two women as heroes, but the message that meant the most to Elena came from her old professor back on Earth. "Elena, you did what we all thought was impossible. You saved a dead planet. More importantly, you proved that it's never too late to fix the damage we cause." 6 months later, Elena stood in the same spot where she had first found Zara dying in the mining station. But now, instead of a toxic wasteland, she was surrounded by a thriving research facility. Scientists from dozens of planets had come to study the atmospheric restoration and learn how to apply the same techniques to other dying worlds. Zara walked up beside her, carrying a report about their latest project. She was no longer the frightened, abandoned woman Elena had found. She had become a confident environmental engineer, respected throughout the galaxy for her work on planetary restoration. "The Council just approved our application to help restore the poisoned moons of the Andromeda system," Zara said with a smile. "Are you ready for another impossible mission?" Elena laughed, looking up at the clear blue sky where her research ship was preparing for departure. "With you as my partner, I think we can handle anything the universe throws at us." As they walked toward the ship together, Elena thought about how much had changed in 6 months. She had come to this planet as a lonely scientist studying planetary death. Now she was part of a team that brought worlds back to life. She had found not just a friend, but a sister in the work of healing the universe. Their ship lifted off into the blue sky, carrying them toward their next mission. Behind them, The planet continued to bloom and grow, a testament to what was possible when people refused to give up hope. The radio crackled with a message from Earth. "Elena, we've received reports of 3 more planets in critical condition. The governments there are requesting your team specifically." Elena looked at Zara, who was already pulling up star charts on her computer. "Well," Elena said into the radio, "I guess we better get to work." As their ship jumped to hyperspace, heading toward another world that needed saving, both women smiled. They had learned that the universe was full of people who would destroy planets for money, but they had also learned that it was full of people who would risk everything to save them. And sometimes, that made all the difference in the galaxy.